fourth-generation icon William S. Burroughs sought refuge and inspiration in Tangier, Morocco during the 1950s, drawn by its status as an international zone, a place of lax laws, easy access to substance, and relative anonymity. It was in Tangier, surrounded by its unique atmosphere of freedom and decay, that he compiled the fragmented manuscripts, fueled by his experiences, which would eventually become his seminal non-linear novel, Naked Lunch. Washington Irving, one of America's first internationally acclaimed authors, is profoundly connected to Sleepy Hollow, New York. His most famous work, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, published in 1820, immortalized the Dutch-settled region near Tarrytown with its tale of Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman. Irving drew inspiration from the local landscape and folklore he experienced during visits. Ernest Hemingway's connection to El Floridita Bar in Havana, Cuba, is legendary. During his decades living near Havana in the years 1939 to 1960, the famed author was a devoted regular at this establishment, known as the Cradle of the Daiquiri. He favored a specific version of the daiquiri, double rum, no sugar, famously dubbed the Papa Doble. Mikhail Sholokhov, the 1965 Nobel laureate in literature, is inextricably linked to the Don River region of Russia. Born in 1905 in Kruzhelin, near the Stanitsa, Cossack village of Vyoshinskaya on the Don, he lived almost his entire life there. This deep immersion profoundly shaped his literary output. His epic masterpiece, And Quiet Flows the Don, Fernando Pessoa's relationship with Lisbon was profound and inseparable. Born and having spent most of his life there, Lisbon served as both his physical and imaginative landscape. The city's streets, cafes like a Brasileira and Martinho da Arcada, and the Tagus River became integral settings and inspirations for his multifaceted literary world, including his numerous heteronyms. Jane Austen's life was deeply rooted in Hampshire, where she spent the majority of her 41 years. Born in Steventon, she lived there for her first 25 years, absorbing the rhythms and social nuances of rural Hampshire life, which richly informed her novels. The county's villages, country houses, and local society provided the settings and inspiration for iconic works like Pride and Prejudice. Paris served as a vital backdrop and inspiration for Ernest Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and Marcel Proust, albeit in distinct ways. Fitzgerald also embraced the Parisian social scene of the Jazz Age. Proust, a lifelong Parisian, meticulously observed the nuances of the city's high society during the Belle Époque. Murasaki Shikibu's life and literary masterpiece, The Tale of Genji, are inextricably linked to Kyoto, then known as Heian-kyo, the imperial capital of Japan. Serving as a lady-in-waiting at the Heian court, she intimately experienced the refined culture, intricate social hierarchies, and aesthetic sensibilities of the era, all of which are vividly portrayed in her epic novel. Herman Melville's deep connection with Nantucket significantly shaped his literary career, particularly his masterpiece, Moby Dick. His early experiences working on whaling ships that sailed from Nantucket, a prominent whaling hub in the 19th century, provided him with first-hand knowledge of the industry, its dangers, and its colorful characters. St. St. Petersburg is arguably as central to Dostoevsky's work as any of his characters. He lived and wrote in this most fantastic and intentional city for much of his adult life, and it serves as the primary setting for many of his major novels, including Crime and Punishment, The Idiot, and Poor Folk. Dublin is inextricably linked to the life and works of James Joyce. Born and raised in the city, Joyce famously declared his intention to recreate Dublin so completely that if the city were destroyed, it could be rebuilt using his books. His works, particularly Dubliners and Ulysses, meticulously map the city's streets, landmarks, and the everyday lives of its inhabitants. New Orleans served as a potent muse and a spiritual home for Tennessee Williams, profoundly shaping his life and his dramatic works. He lived in the city for many years, absorbing its unique atmosphere of faded grandeur, sensuality, and underlying melancholy. The city's distinctive architecture, its diverse population, and its sultry climate permeate plays like A Streetcar Named Desire. While Juan Rulfo's most famous works, like Pedro Páramo and El Llano en Llamas, are deeply rooted in the broader landscape and social realities of rural Mexico, the state of Colima held a significant personal connection for him. Although born in Jalisco, Rulfo spent a substantial part of his childhood in Colima, particularly in the town of San Gabriel. Reykjavik served as the central stage for much of Halldór Laxness's life and a significant backdrop for his literary works. Though he spent periods abroad, Iceland's capital city was his primary residence and a constant source of inspiration. From the bustling harbor to the changing cityscape, Reykjavik provided the setting for many of his novels, reflecting Iceland's societal shifts. While John Steinbeck's literary landscape is most strongly associated with the Salinas Valley and Monterey Peninsula, Soledad, California, holds a significant place in his iconic novella of Mice and Men. The ranch where George and Lenny seek work is situated near Soledad, along the Salinas River. Valparaiso held a profound and passionate connection for Pablo Neruda. He considered the vibrant, chaotic port city his true home and immortalized it in his poetry, particularly in Oda a Valparaiso. The city's steep hills, colorful houses clinging to the slopes, bustling harbor, and bohemian spirit deeply resonated with his poetic sensibilities. Stratford-upon-Avon is the birthplace and final resting place of William Shakespeare, making their connection fundamental to his identity and legacy. Born in this market town, Shakespeare spent his formative years immersed in its local life, which likely influenced his understanding of human nature and the world. Prague is inextricably linked to the life and works of Franz Kafka. Born and having spent the majority of his life in the city, Kafka's Prague was a complex and often oppressive backdrop that heavily influenced his writing. Its labyrinthine streets, imposing architecture, and the sense of bureaucratic absurdity he experienced within its institutions permeate his novels and short stories. Buenos Aires was the lifeblood and literary universe of Jorge Luis Borges. Born and raised in the Argentine capital, Borges transformed the city's streets, libraries, and even its marginal neighborhoods into the intricate labyrinths of his fiction and poetry. His intimate knowledge of Buenos Aires, its history, its myths, and its unique cultural fabric is woven throughout his works. While Gabriel Garcia Marquez's fictional town of Macondo is most strongly linked to his birthplace of Aracataca, the spirit and atmosphere of Macondo can be felt in various locations that influenced him, including Cartagena. Although Macondo itself is a creation of Marquez's imagination in 100 Years of Solitude, Cartagena, where he lived and worked as a young journalist, shares a similar vibrant, sensual, and historically rich Caribbean coastal identity.